Hello everyone and welcome to EcoElsa. In today's episode we'll be talking about how to plan an outdoor class or a nature hike. We'll also be going over some tips and tricks to make it easier when your class is going outside. So I hope you can stay tuned to learn a lot, have fun, and get outside. Whew, it's cold. I can't wait to do the running around and the funny acting stuff. Okay. Bye, Jimmy! Go ahead, have a seat there on the side of the trail. We'll pick you back up in about 15 minutes here. Take a break. Step number 3. So this step is picking your standard. What standard are you going to be trying to meet by taking the kids outside? Or why are you going outside? What is the purpose of going outside? If it's just to burn off energy, then you might not quite be doing environmental education. This is also very important to have clear standards picked out if you're a teacher at a school, because you might have to justify to your principal or maybe to the head of your department why you want to take your class outdoors. And if you don't have clear standards for what you're going to be doing outside, then it might be harder to do. This is also helpful because if it's clearly something you can only do outside, then it's going to be a little bit easier convincing the powers that may be, if you have to, that taking your kids outside is going to be a good thing for meeting these standards. It'll help your class learn better. Additionally, you might be able to see that there's some extra things that you might be able to incorporate as well, besides the standard. Maybe you want to focus on cooperation with your class, or maybe problem solving. Just kind of depending on what you want to focus on. So this brings us to step number 4. So step number 4 is going to be picking activities that make sense with the standard that you've selected for taking your kids outside. This also will help with justifying, if you have to the powers that may be, why you need to take your class outside. Say it's log rolling, or it's an activity that involves trees or ponds. Then it's something you can probably only do outside unless they want to bring a tree inside for you. As well as those secondary things that you wanted to meet when you went outside and you did your activities, like maybe cooperation or problem solving. It'll be easy to find activities that also incorporate that as well. Additionally, the very last thing you need to keep in mind when you're picking these activities is, just because it's something that sounds really fun and cool to you, if you already have an idea that your class is going to hate it and they're not going to want to do it, I don't think I would pick that activity, because it's going to feel like pulling teeth to get those kids to do that activity for you. So the very last thing of your list of how to select an activity is picking something that you know your class is going to enjoy doing. Because when you're not pulling your teeth to get them to do it, then everyone's going to be happy. They'll be learning and having fun. You'll be a little bit more relaxed and having fun, hopefully. So keep that in mind. If you don't know what kind of activities your class would like outside yet, because you haven't taken them outside yet, then go with the usual culprit activities for their age group. If they're a very active group, do active activities or games even. If they're a little bit more quiet group, maybe they can handle some of those more quiet activities. You don't know until you try it, but games and exploration are always a highlight with my groups. It's what I've learned over the years. Doesn't matter the age of them. They love exploring. They love games. So, good place to start. Later on, we'll be going over more about how to pick activities and how to organize your activities in a logical order in a later video. So stay tuned for that as well. Step number 5. We're at the end here. The very last step to planning your outdoor class or your nature hike is having a behavior plan. This is very important because the outdoors is a much different classroom than the indoors. At least in the school, I don't think you ever have to have the worry of your kids running away from you out the class, right? Hopefully not. You don't have any kids that run away from you out of the classroom, out the door, and down the hall. But outdoors is a little bit different. And one of the big things when it comes to behavior is a lot of times teachers get students outside and they think it's a free-for-all. Like, they're outside, obviously it must mean they're out here to play and have fun and run around and not listen to the teacher. When it comes to having class management outside and creating your behavior plan to go along, make sure you include that setting the standards for outside, that outside classroom is the same as the indoor classroom. Especially if you use like the exact same rules worded for the outdoors. It'll make it a lot easier for the kids to remember those rules and be able to do them outside. Set the tone. You are the teacher, you are the teacher, you are the teacher. You're in charge, okay? You set the tone for outside class, and if they can't handle it, that's where the behavior plan comes in. So part of the behavior plan is going over with your principal what will happen if you're taking kids outside and things aren't going well for the whole class or for one student even. So say the whole class is misbehaving. I'm guessing you can probably guess what you're gonna do. You're gonna round up all the kiddos, you're gonna bring them inside, you're gonna sit them down, you'll probably have a discussion about respect, right? And then you'll be doing the learning that you would have been doing outside in the classroom. Now, if one student is misbehaving, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Because depending on what you guys do at school, maybe you send them down to the office. Well, if you're in the middle of the forest like this, it might be a little bit harder to send the kid to the office. Some schools use take a break. Now, take a break is really awesome, but when you're out on a hike in the woods, you're not exactly going to be like, you know, there will be consequences if you don't put that stick down. Okay. Okay, class, say goodbye to Jimmy. Yeah, that's right, Jimmy. Go ahead, take a seat right there. You're going to take a break. We'll come and pick you up in about 15 minutes. Wait, what? You're going to just leave me here? Bye, Jimmy. Not really. No, you're not going to do that, as tempting as that might be. So that's why you have to decide with your principal what kind of behavior plan are you going to have in place. If someone is able to, while your hike's going on, come and pick up a student who's misbehaving outside, maybe you call this office or you radio into the school like, hey, I have one student who's misbehaving, we're over here by the baseball diamond, could you come out and pick them up so we can continue on with the rest of the class? That's great if you're able to do that, and if not, this is unfortunately where it gets a little bit hard, because you'll have to make that decision. Well, do I keep trying to do this class even though this one student is really misbehaving? Or do I take the whole class inside even though everyone else is behaving? You as a teacher are going to have to decide what's right for you with that. In some cases, peer pressure can be an awesome thing with getting students to behave so you can do fun things like this outside. But in other cases, peer pressure can sometimes turn into borderline to actually bullying. Keep this in mind. Make sure you're setting a behavior plan that makes sense for you with your principal, especially if this is the first time anyone at your school is taking a class outside. The keys to class management outside is setting that tone, making sure the students understand that you're in charge, and setting the same standards outside for the outside classroom as the inside classroom. Having a behavior plan in place for what you're going to do if the whole class is misbehaving or one student's misbehaving. And a great thing about that is also letting the students know what standards they're being held to so that they understand when they mess up, they know they're already messing up. There was a lot of things that go into class management outside. So the great news for you guys is that next week's video is going to be on class management outside. So how to handle these different situations that you might come across that are fairly common when taking a class outside. Thanks for stopping by. If you liked this video, please click the like, subscribe, and notification buttons below. Any teachers, if you have great things to share about how you take your classes outdoors, love to hear from you. Please leave them in the comments. As always, I post new videos on Wednesdays, so stay tuned for next week's video on class management outdoor. As always, be safe, learn lots, have fun, get your kids outdoors, and have an awesome week. Bye guys, thanks. And don't anyone ask me to build a snowman with them. I've had enough of that. It's been 3 years of it. I'm done. No snowman. The next child to ask me to build a snowman with them will be buried in the snowman. Test me. I dare you. Try it. Totally kidding. Or am I?